the auto industry, the big three in the auto industry had been very much against Trump's tariffs, just because a lot of the suppliers of the materials that are used in the auto industry and in American manufacturing are sourced from Mexico. And they're
literally half the imports that we get from Canada and Mexico are intermediate goods.
Bit of stock market shifting, but you kind of always see that. I mean,
stock market shifting. A lot of stock market crashes have to do with factors outside of the president's control. This is something that President Trump could stop at any moment. This is something that other Republicans could stop at any moment just by voting in Congress to stop it.
Egg prices, gas prices, these things are going back down, and the inflation.
So egg prices, gas prices, a big reason why egg prices went down was because we started importing eggs. And a big reason why oil prices are going down is because people are anticipating a recession, and that tends to reduce the demand for oil. Oil prices went down in the beginning of COVID too. That's not a good indicator. If you want to see more content like this, I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing. It really helps with the algorithm. And make sure to check out the Discord and other social links in the description.
As recession fears and Elon Musk batter Trump's approval rating. Is Trump causing a recession? 3, 2, 1. I'll jump in. I don't think that we're in a recession, but I think Trump's erratic and unpredictable economic behavior is damaging the economy. You can see it in multiple indicators. The S&P 500 was down 10% this week. The Atlanta Federal Reserve said the GDP is going to contract in Q1, and you can draw a direct line between Trump's
Tyler Davidson for the
flopping on tariffs and the stock market crashing, because we can all agree businesses thrive in a predictable environment. You need to know how many resources to allocate where, at what time, and when Trump is creating such an unpredictable economic environment, yeah, it's going to hurt the stock market. Yeah, CEOs are going to come out.
We have a ton of empirical evidence that uncertainty. I mean, first of all, just logically, obviously, businesses might be hesitant to invest if they're uncertain about what tariffs will actually go into place, because they don't know where they should be investing, right? If I'm building a plant, I don't know if I should be building my plant in Mexico or in the U.S. if I don't know what tariffs are going to be in effect. But yeah, empirical evidence seems to suggest, too, that uncertainty is just pretty bad, generally speaking.
Hey, this is not good.
One thing about the stock market is a gauge at what we call micro horizon of where the economy is going to be in a short-term gain. Trump's approach to the economy is, instead of using the word recession, I use the word detox. He's trying to reset.
Detox for what? Oh, it's so infuriating. What? I am so confused. What? First of all, the stock market is I don't know if it's true. The stock market is only focused on short-term things. If people actually expected, the other guy on the panel yesterday, told me that real wage growth was going to get to 6% within 5 years, at least. Or he said, to be fair, if tariffs work, what we'll see is 6% wage growth. 5 years from now, wages are going to start growing at 6% instead of 4%, what they're at right now. That's insane. If that is true, you would expect the stock market to not have such an unbelievably negative reaction, at least. But I don't know, just what. Literally what long-term gain? Literally what long-term gain, dog? There's a so it's a little nausea from the chemotherapy. Yeah, literally, I don't even know what to say. And there's also what was it? It's I think in the Return of Depression Economics. There's this quote. No modern Treasury Secretary would echo Andrew Mellon's famous advice to liquidate labor, liquidate stocks, liquidate the farmers, liquidate real estate, purge the rottenness out of the system. Nothing like the Great Depression could ever happen again. It's so funny that our Treasury Secretary is basically saying this exact fucking same thing. And Krugman's point was that in 2008, people were basically saying this thing as well, because the book was written during the financial crisis in 2008. But Jesus.
This economy of terrible 4 years that we've gone through, and his stance on tariffs.
Oh, the terrible 4 years that we went through. Yep, true. Highest fucking growth in the G7. Our inflation was not meaningfully higher than the G7, and it came down faster than a lot of the other G7 and G20 countries. Unemployment was at historic lows, literally 50-year lows. Tariffs great, hard times great, strong men, strong make great, good times. True. This is Trump's strategy. We need to make the men more manly so they create good times. Okay, that's what we.
Tariffs goes back to that long-term.
Thanks, Renow, for the follow. I appreciate it.
And he wants to have a medium to long-term gain for the average American. He's not focused on making our next two.
What? What? What does that look like? Explain. Elaborate. Tell me. What is the long-term gain here?
6 months, great. He wants the next 3, 4, 5, 10 years to be great. And I think setting up tariffs like that, it is going to be a situation where it is a detox. It's going to probably going to get a little worse before it gets better because he has a lot that he has to reset.
No opinion
When Trump
on the article
announced
about
his
this.
tariffs, the auto industry, the big three in the auto industry had been very much against Trump's tariffs, just because a lot of the suppliers of the materials that are used in the auto industry and in American manufacturing are sourced from Mexico.
Truth.
And they're
Yep. I think that this was filmed a while ago, so I think the tariffs in Canada and Mexico were the thing that was relevant then. But like literally half the imports that we get from Canada and Mexico are intermediate goods. Like that. And tariffing intermediate goods is the same as just taxing businesses. You don't even help producers like you usually do with tariffs when you tariff intermediate goods because you raise the cost of producing things. You raise the cost for businesses. You raise the cost for American manufacturers. Yeah, I finally bought No Opinion Substack so I can read this now that I can get past the paywall. Even though I don't know what's gonna be in this that I don't know by now, but I think this probably has a long-term gain thing in it somewhere, but yeah, I didn't mention, but I appreciate you posting all that stuff in Discord. Yeah, it was. I don't even think it's paywalled anymore, but it was paywalled, so yeah. But Jesus, okay. But she's right. You hurt U.S. producers when you tariff intermediate goods. That's why auto producers who rely on, parts made in Mexico and Mexico and Canada aren't actually benefiting from the tariffs because it raised the cost of producing cars in the U.S. That's why some plants have already announced layoffs. Like
American suppliers of those things. So when Trump first announced his tariffs on Mexico, the Dow dropped by.
Wait, what did No Opinion say dumb about healthcare? I mean, I don't agree with him on everything, but
1,300 points. So how do you reconcile that as not being the direct cause of what could potentially become a financial recession?
Well, I think the reason that we see this is that for decades now, we've been exporting manufacturing, exporting these various goods to other.
Oh, true. I'm going to repeat the same script to you guys. Going to repeat the same script. Number one, not convinced trade actually is the reason for the decline in the manufacturing share of employment. It seems like every advanced economy has followed the same path where manufacturing employment manufacturing share of employment follows a inverted U-shaped path. So it starts out low, and then it climbs for a while, and then it peaks, and then it falls. Even economies like South Korea and Germany, which have trade surpluses and strong manufacturing sectors, experience the same things because there's structural forces behind it. Additionally, like the U.S. has just gotten more productive. The country that actually lost the most manufacturing jobs in the last 100 years has been China, because China got a lot more productive. Like, they're still the manufacturing powerhouse of the world. The U.S. in the same way just got more productive. We started making more things with less people. That's why manufacturing output was increasing all the way up until 2008. When sort of larger structural reasons after the Great Recession kind of stopped that. And that was all while manufacturing employment was decreasing. That's evidence of us getting more productive. If you look at real value added in manufacturing, that's still increasing. And then also, we just have to, there's no intrinsic reason to care about manufacturing. There's an opportunity cost to having the manufacturing here. Trade lets us specialize in what we're good at. Lets us specialize in what we have higher productivity in. And there are benefits to that. There are benefits to the U.S. specializing in one thing and trading for the other thing. Again, trade is just a type of technology that lets us indirectly produce the things that we import by first producing things to export, like services, and then importing stuff from other countries.
Countries instead of performing these actions within our own country, so much so that companies have gotten used to the affordability of it and the ease of access of it, of saying, oh, hey, we don't have to spend all this money to do it in America, we can do it somewhere.
Wholly based. What do you say? Fun fact, Americans pay less health costs out of pocket than people in almost any other country. Out-of-pocket spending seems to be low because the U.S. spends so much in healthcare. The U.S. is paying $4.5 trillion in healthcare. And someone pays $10,000 out of pocket. It seems like a lot of money in paper. You need to look at absolute terms, not as a percentage. I think it makes sense to look at it as a percentage. I don't know.
Or else, because we had so many states and our country as a whole where it was difficult to do business. It was expensive to do business. Now, with Trump potentially levying these tariffs, and the great thing I say is potentially is that so many of these tariffs are more so bargaining chips, and they haven't really been.
Free trade is really bad. We're exporting all our manufacturing to these other countries. By the way, these tariffs are actually just bargaining chips to get to free trade. Dog, how do you say this in the same sentence?
Placed in most places yet against Canada or Mexico that have actually resulted in these tariffs being charged. For instance, we saw it with Canada. Canada actually, in various places, and not in every place, but with certain tariffs, particularly with energy between Ontario and America, they actually reduced their tariffs. And certainly there's going to be some back and forth going on. And the new Canadian Prime Minister might say, oh, hey, well, we want a 90% tariff on this. Trump's saying, okay, well, we're going to match that tariff rise. This is kind of a back and forth trade war or trade negotiation that we've seen from Trump in his first term, and I imagine we'll see it throughout the rest of this term as he works to, as Luke very aptly said, detox what has been the last 4 years of pain for our economy. And you might see a little bit.
First of all, even if I granted that the last 4 years in the economy were painful or whatever, which to an extent we had high inflation, right? Like the biggest concern over the last 4 years was high inflation. Tariffs are not going to help with that, dog. They're going to, even if you don't consider them strictly inflationary, they're going to lead to at least a one-time price increase for a lot of goods. But I don't understand how tariffs are going to detox the bad economy, even if I granted that it was bad.
Bit of stock market shifting, but you kind of always see that. I mean,
stock market shifting, we kind of always see. I need to go to the Wikipedia. People keep saying this, and it's just like unbelievable to cope. Like, people keep bringing up first of all, because guess what, motherfuckers? Not all stock market crashes actually have to do with the president's policy. Like the Kamala crash, my understanding, my memory, maybe I should do more reading into it just because this keeps getting brought up, was because the Bank of Japan was raising interest rates. A lot of stock market crashes have to do with factors outside of the president's control. This is something that President Trump could stop at any moment. This is something that other Republicans could stop at any moment just by voting in Congress to stop it. It's not even just a failing of Trump, but it's a failure of the Republican Party when their leader is doing a batshit insane thing to rein him in.
It's going down a lot.
But we're talking about the stock market, but we aren't talking about things that actually affect most people, like the consumer price index, inflation, and more indexes of like egg prices, gas prices. These things are going back down, and the inflation is going down.
They're not.
But we're talking about the stock market, but we aren't talking about things that actually affect most people, like the consumer price index, inflation, and more indexes of like egg prices, gas prices. These things are going back down, and the inflation.
So egg prices, gas prices, a big reason why egg prices went down was because we started importing eggs. Eggflation, I know. A big reason why oil is going down is this is two countries stepped into the bird flu breach in February, Turkey and Mexico. They exported more than 4 times as many eggs that month as they did the prior year. We got a fuck ton of imported eggs, and that's part of the reason why egg prices went down. And a big reason why oil prices are going down is because people are anticipating a recession, and that tends to reduce the demand for oil. Oil prices went down in the beginning of COVID too. That's not a good indicator. That's not a good indicator, dog. It's also kind of, I need to do more reading about this because I saw a chart in it one time. It's also like oil producers need a certain price to oil for it to be profitable for them to drill baby drill, right? Like they need, in order to expand drilling in the US, they kind of want oil prices to be high in order so they can actually make returns on scoping out where the next oil fields are and stuff like that. And like the price of oil when Trump got into office was not at that rate. The price of oil now, because it's falling, it's definitely not at that rate. So if you want to drill baby drill, you're not going to, I mean, you're either going to have to subsidize oil companies to do that, at which point, why don't you just fucking subsidize green energy? Or you're going to have the price of oil be high enough so it's actually worth it for them to explore new fields and shit.
Is going down.
No, they're not.
They are.
Egg prices
right
have
now.
skyrocketed since Trump took office.
So that's time you bought eggs.
You're right.
Here's the thing.
Can I say really quickly? You're right that the stock market is just one indicator, but the idea that Trump is doing this purely to reshore manufacturing is not even backed up by Trump. Trump has played these weird tariff games where he says, I want less fentanyl at the border, and then after there's less fentanyl.
But also, I mean, again, it's not even like a good thing to reshore. I don't know why we're just like embedding the premise that like it's automatically good to reshore all this stuff, but Fred still shows them as going up. I mean, this is nominal, so maybe if you deflate them, maybe the real price is a little bit lower, but
he completely switches his stance. So he has no coherent
Because
goal with
he
them.
achieved what he was trying to get.
At the same time, so if he achieved what he's trying to get, why did he replace the tariffs on Canada? That's entirely
okay, so he's talking about something completely different there, and that's the exact point you're making. For instance, the original tariffs we were going to place on Mexico and Canada was about fentanyl and was about illegal immigration.
They clearly weren't, because Trump
well,
didn't
yes,
replace
exactly.
tariffs.
Actually, they were, because right after he placed those, or was planning to place them, the Mexican president announced, "Oh, we're going to be placing soldiers at the border."
This is an entirely terrible talking point for a few reasons. Number one, all of the concessions that Trump got from Sheinbaum and Trudeau had already been conceded months prior. That $1.3 billion bill that Trudeau introduced.
And also, they haven't mentioned revenue, but like we were talking about this earlier. Remember, the goal of these tariffs are all contradictory. If you use them for negotiations, you're not going to collect revenue, and you're not going to bring manufacturing back because you don't actually implement the fucking tariffs. If you collect revenue, you're not going to bring manufacturing back because revenue requires that people actually keep buying imported goods to pay the tariff, right? Like, if you bring manufacturing back, that implies that people are not buying imported goods. So you're not going to raise any revenue. And that means you also can't use them as negotiation because, again, if you remove them, you don't accomplish your goal of bringing manufacturing back. But I think he is right here. Like first of all, Canada had I don't know why we're talking about Canada, who had 42 pounds of fentanyl, and then most of that shit was already conceded to before Trump. Like, it was already agreed with. But
had been introduced in December of 2024. You can look this up on the Canadian website. The same thing with Sheinbaum. Actually, Biden got 15,000 troops to the border in his first year. And I just want to say that if Trump is trying to reshore manufacturing, the strategy that you take is leaving a grace period. Doesn't it take 6 months to a year for American companies to build these manufacturing plants, to hire workers? If he's actually trying to reshore manufacturing, as you claim, leave a grace period. And also, you said that Trump isn't being unpredictable. It's more about consistency. Would you call Trump's tariffs thus far consistent?
I didn't say I didn't say anything related to him. I just said most businesses would thrive with consistency.
So let me rephrase. Do you think that Trump has created an environment that's consistent for businesses to thrive?
For short term, no, because he's looking at a long-term goal.
But
and
what
you
is
guys,
the
I mean, I want to
yes, please, yes, thank you, I love you, yes.
touch because I'm focused more on
What is the
recession,
long-term goal?
relating that back towards the
Can I ask
United
one question really quickly?
When I'm done, yeah. So bringing it back towards the United States economy, you guys were talking about egg prices skyrocketing. Egg prices have gone down to, I think, $6.85 a dozen, which is $1.20 less than what they were a few months
Where?
ago.
Down from what though?
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it's
actually,
the national average right now.
Now,
Same
what
thing
was the
with-
national average at when Trump took office as?
Again, this, I don't know, this still shows them going up ever since November, but I don't know, there's probably a better, is there like an egg price index? This is the real inflation index, Cat Tricks. You're right. We should just replace CPI with egg prices. This shows it going down. Does Trueflation have the have like certain sectors?
And over the past
But see,
month.
I'm not looking at it. We can blame him
So
for
the
this. I'm
national
looking at
average
where
when
we're
Trump
at
took
right
office
now.
was about $6.50. Now they're actually down to $5.50 in just about a few weeks. And the reason we saw the egg prices go up, and I don't know how far we want to get into this, was because we had the H5N1 virus that started in 2022, and the Biden administration did next to nothing about that. On top of all the various other squeezing and regulations that were hitting farmers, these chickens had no choice.
I don't think that's true. I think God, I don't remember. I hope Adam Mockler knows. I don't remember how. There's varying degrees of truth. I think. Fuck, I'm trying to remember. Fuck, dude, because there was a whole bullshit thing on Twitter. I believe it is true. Biden did, but I don't remember. It might have been like the killing order was voluntary or something. Biden killing order chickens.
To catch the virus and then get killed. 58 million chickens have died, thus causing a sort of supply and demand issue where, hey, everybody wants eggs. Oh my God, there's no chickens left to make the eggs. We have these chickens finally starting to get hatched and finally starting to be of age where they can produce eggs again. That's what's going to cause those prices to go
So
down.
if we know that there is a flu that is affecting the
There
amount
was.
that, okay. So if we know that there was a flu.
Biden administration and Department of Agriculture directed a mass killing of more than 100 million chickens. That's not exactly correct. Those killings are required by the Department of Agriculture to contain the spread of the highly contagious avian flu. Dead birds either die naturally or are culled to avoid the spread of the deadly virus. It is up to the farmers to report an outbreak. November, December alone, the virus killed about 17 million egg-laying hens. The easiest solution, mandated veganism, baby. Mandated. When will we get the ultimate vegan president?
that is affecting the amount of eggs that chickens can produce, why would you place tariffs on a huge manufacturer of our resources in terms of food?
To reshore manufacturing, bro.
Like, that doesn't make sense. If there's already an issue in which we have less eggs, why would you put more taxes on eggs?
Because our priority is America, and our priority is
But if your priority is America and there's an issue with supply, why would you make it
Also,
harder to get that supply?
Does it not bother you guys that Trump's main promise was to lower prices on day one? And both of you guys just gave the argument that, hey, maybe in 6 to 12 months after some economic pain that Trump and Elon Musk are completely insulated from, by the way. Wasn't Trump's promise to lower prices?
They're just going to say inflation is down. They're just going to say inflation is down. And by the way, if inflation was up, they're cultist. All they would say is, oh, it's going to take a while to feel the effects of tariffs anyway. We can't blame this on the tariffs. Which is exactly what Howard Lutnick was saying. But like before, it's so funny. Before the payrolls report came out, Howard was like, you know, you're not going to see the effects of tariffs until like the end of 2025 and the data. But like as soon as the data is good, they try to take credit for it. They try to be like, oh, payrolls are up clearly because the tariffs are working. And also, fuck these people because they don't believe the data. They didn't believe the data under Biden. They said all the data was fake under Biden. The methodology hasn't changed. Not that they ever understood the BLS methodology for calculating job numbers anyway, but the methodology hasn't changed. Like the job numbers are still calculated the exact same way. But fuck these people. They are cultists. They just believe the numbers under Trump, but don't believe the numbers under Biden. Jesus.
Prices on day one.
Well, prices are lower. I mean, the price of gas is
literally
at the
are lower.
lowest since
The target
2021.
Again, the gas. That's not a good indicator. It's not a good thing. Not a good thing. Not a good thing. Not a good. It reflects the fact that people are anticipating a recession, or at least an increased probability of a recession. I think poly market still has a recession being more likely than not, but it fell because Trump walked back some of the tariffs. Dude, this was so fucking funny. Oh my god, it's all the way back up to what? How? Oh Jesus. It's all the way back up to 64%. Probably because I'm guessing the bond market. I'm guessing people are watching the 30-year yield and 10-year yield go up. Although I think the 10-year yield is down from where it was at like midnight 2 nights ago or something. I think it's still... Or look at 5-day. I think it's gone down a little. Yeah. Oh, wait. Maybe not? What? No, it was at 4.5 at one point, wasn't it? I thought it was at 4.5. Yeah, hold on. Back here. Yeah, it's down from... up here. I was at 4.5 briefly. But this shit is so funny. Goldman Sachs. U.S. economic analysis moving towards a recession baseline. And then Trump walks back his tariffs. I think he says, I think they even say, we think the White House is unlikely to quickly reverse most of the new tariffs, but a probability of recession would decline if it does. Then Trump announces he's reversing tariffs 73 minutes later. Goldman Sachs. President Trump announces 90-day pause, reverting to our previous non-recession baseline. Don't worry, guys. There's only a 45% probability of recession and forecast GDP growth of 0.5%. By the way, again, fuck these people. It doesn't matter. Like, if GDP ends up being good, they'll say, like, oh, look, tariffs are already working. And if GDP ends up being bad, they'll be saying short-term pain for long-term gain. There's nothing ever that you could ever show them that, like, falsify their worldview. Like, it's...
CEO just came out and said that prices are going to have to go up. Even Tesla just wrote a letter to the Trump.
The dumb money probably just said that was a dead cat balance. I don't follow finance, man. I had to those words don't, dude. The finance talk is so, you know, the dumbest, stupidest, shittiest bullshit in terms for everything, dude.
Trump administration saying, dude, our cars are going to be hurt if you actually tariff Canada for no reason.
Trump just republished an op-ed called "Shut Up About Egg Prices." Like,
Literally,
what are we talking about?
Yeah, but we're seeing prices are going down. The price of gas is the lowest since 2021, and we're also seeing the CPI this past month was 0.2%, which was substantially lower than what it was estimated.
Again, fuck these people. These were the people claiming that CPI was fake under Biden. They said Biden's manipulating the CPI to make it lower than it is. If we used the old CPI methodology, it's actually 1,218,000%. 2, if it was higher than expected, they would just say short-term pain for long-term gain. 3, cite me a single study, please, that shows tariffs don't have a like a pass-through rate of like over 80% or something. Which, I mean, there are studies out there which you can find that are like not that these people haven't read those fucking studies. Maybe I've seen them cited on Twitter and just copied a talking point. There are studies out there where you can find where it's like, you know, retail prices only have like a 25% pass-through rate, even if the pass-through rate for corporations is for the people actually importing the product in the first place is like 90%. Maybe they choose to take half of that as loss to their profits and half of that they pass on to consumers. But it still raises prices. But like, Jesus, fuck these people. Like,
and we even see liberal networks like CNN speaking out how the economy is getting better. Again, if you have a progressive channel like that, then that means things must actually be getting better.
I'm going to take the position, and you guys aren't going to like this. Biden handed the economy to Trump on a silver platter. If you look at any of these,
shattered silver platter.
Can you name me one indicator that isn't on a consistent trend from the Biden presidency? Is there one? Did the unemployment growth on January 21st did the unemployment randomly drop on January 21st? Is there an indicator that's not off of the back of what Biden was already building?
It's almost like the president doesn't even have that much control over the macro economy, dude. Like, it's like, you just have to not, first of all, presidents don't have that much control over the macro economy in the first place. Like, Trump just has to not do insane shit, and things will go mostly fine. Like, even the tax cuts or whatever, like, that's typically going to lead to like a stock market bump. That'll probably have negative effects just because the deficit will increase, but it probably have negative effects in aggregate. But there's still benefits to doing that. There's just like no fucking benefits to these tariffs. Like, you're just being insane for no reason.
With his plans.
Yeah, so I can give you something that Biden destroyed. We had oil production, and oil production is something that's very important within our country.
True.
Obviously, is our energy independence. It's something that goes into the gas prices. On day one, Joe Biden placed numerous regulations and executive orders to halt so much oil production in our country that while we were still growing our oil production, we had a 4% average growth rate during his presidency. Meanwhile, during the Trump presidency, we saw between 11 to 13% average growth rate during those years. That is a very major indicator of, oh my gosh, there's a problem. And that's why we saw, on top of numerous other factors, the gas prices get so bad. And, you know, we talk about the stock market, and we talk about these tariffs. These things aren't actually here yet. They aren't actually hurting Americans yet. And the point that...
Because he keeps pausing them. Why does he keep pausing them?
So number one, uncertainty is bad. Guess what? Like Adam mentioned, and I think the other do mention it as well. Even uncertainty reduces business investment. The uncertainty alone reduces business investment. I think I have a study on this somewhere. Using stock returns to assess the aggregate. Oh no, this is about stock market returns. I don't know. One of these all have studies cited in them, and I can go look at them to find that we have empirical evidence that uncertainty does actually reduce business investment alone. It might actually be better. It might actually be better at this fucking point. I'll say it would probably be better. Yeah, research consistently documents how policy harms or uncertainty harms investment. Crazy. What was I saying? Fuck.
Because we talk about these tariffs, these things aren't actually here yet. They aren't actually hurting Americans yet. And the point that...
Because he keeps pausing them. Why does he keep pausing them?
Because
if it's such a good idea, why would he
What's the concession he's trying to get?
Negotiator, man. Again, this guy started by saying free trade is bad. He said we've been exporting our manufacturing. But now he's just like, free trade is actually good and we need to negotiate for freer trade. Like, dog, kill me. Studying the efficacy of parachutes for skydiver safety.
You get from Canada right now. Okay, so we've talked about this. At first, it was fentanyl, but then you said he switched the concession that he's trying to get from Canada and Mexico. What is it now? What's the concession he's trying to get?
The concession he's trying to get, and it's numerous things. So, for instance, one of the tariffs that we're talking about right now is steel. Steel is Canada is one of the largest exporters of steel to our country, and something that we're really trying to work on is, as Luke mentioned, get our manufacturing back together. And you're making this whole joke about, oh my gosh, short up manufacturing.
It takes time, man.
Yeah, I do want to know, what is the plan to increase American manufacturing?
In 1 month, every company is going to...
By the way, tariffs aren't even if you want to do that, which again, I don't think you should unless it's like a national security thing. Because opportunity cost, guys, trade is actually good. Tariffs aren't even the optimal way to do that. We saw this with steel. Steel, despite Biden keeping a lot of the steel tariffs in place, like if you look at actual steel output in the U.S., it actually did not really benefit from the tariffs because tariffs they benefited short run, but in the longer run, people found substitutes for steel, like because tariffs raise prices, they incentivize people to try to substitute away from the input that increases in prices. Subsidies don't have that same effect typically, because subsidies can actually, lower prices. You're subsidizing them. And tariffs have really negative effects on competition. Tariffs invite retaliation. When we did tariffs on Chinese steel, they tariffed our farmers. We probably would not have seen that same effect if we just subsidized American steel. And like I said, we have a ton of fucking studies, a ton of empirical evidence, and good theory too, that tariffs reduce labor productivity in the industry they protect. They protect inefficient industries and give them no incentive to innovate. And that harms not only that industry, but everyone else as well.
Going to build a manufacturing plant in every city, and they're going to hire all of these.
Well, we're not making the argument that it's going to be instant. We're patient.
But what is the plan?
Okay, the plan is
concepts of a plan.
There are real concepts of a plan, and they're going to come through.
So what are
they? Okay, well, if you let me say it, we have numerous companies. For instance, we have Intel and numerous other companies.
God, think every time with these people. What I need to understand. My brain is broken. It's not their brain is broken. My brain is broken. My brain is broken. My brain is broken. Because these anecdotes never do anything for me, and I know for other people these anecdotes mean a lot. To me it's infinitely more meaningful to look at the GDP Now forecast and look at the releases of data, right? They have the not the spreadsheet. They have this. To look at these actual numbers about aggregate, scary word, aggregate business investment, because Apple might be investing. A lot of other companies are going to be uncertain and just sit on their hands and not invest, right? In fact, Apple investing that, no one denies that tariffs are going to shift investment from unprotected sectors towards protected sectors. But again, you just have to remember the investment in protected sectors comes at the cost of reducing investment in other sectors. Or technically, it could reduce consumption too, or reduce savings. There's other things that could be hurt. But you're not just going to increase output magically by tariffing shit. We're pretty close to full employment. There aren't just a ton of idle resources lying around waiting to be used. So when a government artificially protects sectors and makes some artificially more profitable, yes, that's going to increase investment in those sectors, but it's going to decrease investment in the other sectors that you made relatively less profitable. But you can see here, advanced manufacturing, negative 1.8. I think this is the growth rate from last quarter, right? I think. I don't know, this is so much more meaningful to me, but even anecdotally, I think you can look at, there was some company in California that announced that they were laying off people because of the tariffs,
that are announcing they're going to be opening manufacturing plants, TSMC opening manufacturing plants in America.
I gotta remember, I gotta like I said, compile them, because anecdotes apparently mean more to people than evidence.
To create chips, a whole lot better than the so-called Chips and Science Act, by the way. These are tangible things that are going to be happening.
Wait, sorry?
For instance, we have Intel and numerous other companies that are announcing they're going to be opening manufacturing plants, TSMC opening manufacturing plants in America to create chips, a whole lot better than the so-called Chips and Science Act, by the way.
I don't know how he can make that claim. It's not like the Chips and Science Act didn't lead to a lot of people investing in the U.S. to make chips. What do you mean, dog? Again, probably more efficiently than tariffs do, because subsidies a lot of times don't have the same negative effects on labor productivity. Subsidies don't reduce the size of the market by inviting trade wars. Subsidies, usually just aren't as bad. They don't cause as much deadweight loss, seemingly.
Way. These are tangible things that are going to be happening. I believe it's either Toyota or Honda that announced that they're opening yet another manufacturing plant here in the United States to bring in materials from other places, but assemble them here in America. And the real point is we're trying to get even higher up.
Those materials from other places are going to be tariffed under your 10% tariff on every one plan. What are you talking about? Not plan, actually did. Although, to be fair, as of now, USMCA compliant goods are exempted from that. But who knows? We'll see. What's up?
Subsidies are still bad.
I think that makes sense for national security shit, but yeah, I think
Your puppet They could just say national security and you dance your dance. You're like a puppet.
I think it makes sense. I mean, I'm gonna like. Okay, true. I don't know. I'm gonna have a probably more limited scope than what a lot of protectoids mean by national security, but I just care about America. Sample wants America to fail. He wants us to outsource all our strategic industries to China.
On that river of production. So, for instance, the Canadian steel goes into so many things that we use on a day-to-day basis that so many Americans say, well, hey.
That's why That's why steel tariffs tend to reduce employment, because a lot of other people fucking use steel.
And companies, it would be better for America as a whole, manufacturing jobs that Americans can have that increase our economy, increase our GDP, things of that nature, if we had that manufacturing here in America instead of, hey, let's do it in Canada.
I'm gonna shoot myself.
think what you said right there about chips and manufacturing, that's not what Trump's saying. If we check his Truth Social right now and we check what he said about Canada over the past week, I can guarantee you he's made 19 jokes about Canada being the 51st state and Trudeau being a governor. He has, and you're proud of that.
I wouldn't say I'm proud of it, but I don't have to take it so serious.
What's his end goal? You don't think you should take that seriously?
You don't think you should take
the
what
U.S.
Trump
president
says?
showing the same imperial ambitions that Vladimir Putin is showing?
I'm saying I don't take him saying, oh, the 51st governor of Canada seriously, just like I didn't take people saying Joe Biden is, I'm not even going to go there. So many things people said about Joe Biden that I said, okay, listen, I'm not going to take that.
But that's not what Joe Biden is saying. I'm saying he's saying the president of the United States of America is absolutely saying that. Why should we not take what the president says at face value? Also, it's fair to support a president without supporting every single thing they do. You do not have to blindly just accept that this is okay and continue to wait and wait and wait for it to work out. This is a bad idea. It's not working.
I mean, if things actually were bad, and I can man up and I can admit that, but again, we're 2 months in. I'm not going to be that guy that stands by Trump with everything because I disagree with things that Trump has done. But at the end of the day, I can't make such a big decision off of 2 months into
He set a goal for the American economy, and instead of meeting it, he has done the opposite.
Yes, but just how like you've said that we can't look at, oh, well, in 6 months it'll be better. Well, you guys are doing the same thing, saying, well, it's getting bad. In a couple months it's going to be bad. We don't know whether it's going to be good or bad. You guys can assume based off of what you believe, and we assume based off of what we believe. And so until it actually...
Well, the difference is, like, one of these people, the liberals here, have, like, really solid economic theory behind why tariffs are bad. Like, every economist for the past 200 years has written about fucking trade, dude. Like, economics fucking started with, like, Adam Smith fucking complaining about trade, man. Jesus. David Ricardo, all the way like 200, 300 years ago, man. And we've over time developed more and more theories. And guess what? All the empirical evidence supports it. Like every fucking study that we could look at, dog. It's like tariffs just generally have negative effects on employment, even in the manufacturing sector, which is people are obsessed over for some reason. Fine, that hey. Guess what? You actually reduce manufacturing employment because you tariff all the fucking inputs that people use. That's why steel tariffs reduce manufacturing employment, and tariffs harm exports via exchange rate appreciation and retaliatory tariffs, which U.S. manufacturers rely on exports as well. Like,
actually happens, we just won't know.
Who is Mahmoud Khalil, the anti-Israel Columbia University activist ICE arrested? Should Mahmoud Khalil...
we might continue watching this. I don't know. YouTube hasn't gotten mad at me, so so long as YouTube don't get mad at me. Yeah, this is an IMF. What's this one? We estimate economic effects, import tariffs, and trade policy to the United States. Combining theory consistent with narrative, sign restrictions, and whatever that, we find mostly adverse consequences of protectionism in aggregate and across sectors and regions. Tariff shocks are more important than trade policy uncertainty shocks. Tariff shocks depress trade, investment, and output persistently. The general equilibrium import elasticity is negative 0.8. Historically, NAFTA/WTO raised output by 1 to 3% for 20 years. Undoing the 2018-2019 measures would raise output by 4% over 3 years. Defining supply, higher gains of trade than partial equilibrium or static trade models. 1 year later, we're saying that it's early and Trump needs more time to fix our economy. Dude, they'll say whatever. It doesn't matter what happens. They'll define anything as a win. They literally the economy could be in a recession, and they would say, bro, the 10-year yield is down. Like, doesn't matter. They would say the gas price is down, guys. Subway bought their fucking $5 footlong back, guys. It's a win. It's a win. It's like, it doesn't matter what happened. Yeah, unemployment's at 25%, but at least we're not dependent on China. Like, if you want to chat with me live, sub here or go to Nonfon420 on Twitch or Kick via the links below. Once again, please like and sub to help with the algorithm, and consider sending a donation through YouTube Super Thanks to directly support me, and I'll make sure to reply to any question you ask. See you guys next time.